Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the January 14th, 2021, the first time I've said that, board meeting for the Yellow Springs Board of Education. We start early in January because this is our annual organizational meeting, and in fact, I'm immediately going to turn over the virtual gavel here to our President Pro Tem, Sylvia Ellison, to get us through these preliminary matters.
Thank you very much. So, starting off, I would like to call the roll, please. So,
Here.
Hammock.
Here.
Ellison.
Here.
McQueen. Turner.
Here. Here. Sorry, I just
There he is. There he is.
All right, we're going to think really good thoughts for your internet to keep working, for all of us, actually. So I believe now I'm moving on to persons present, which I am not sure how that works with our organizational meeting. So I'm going to acknowledge any persons present. Okay. And then, hang on, my screen switched on me. And then next, we are going to move into the election of our president. So, do I have any motions?
Move to nominate Steve Kahn again.
And I will second if I'm allowed to while I'm doing this job.
If not, I'll second.
Okay. So we have Aida nominating and Sylvia and Steve McQueen seconding Steve Kahn as president of the board. And then we're going to go ahead and call the roll for the vote.
On.
Yes, I guess.
Hammock.
Yes.
Ellison.
Yes.
McQueen.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Turner.
Yes. Yes.
All right, well, a hearty congratulations then to our continuing and new for 2021 president of the board, Steve Kahn.
Well,
That was a pretty easy inauguration.
Yeah, well, I was going to say I am not making any vote fraud here. I think all the votes were counted properly, so I'm good with that. Thank you, Sylvia, for getting us through that. We'll go to organizational business 2.2, and that's the election of our vice president. Do I have a motion for that?
I move to nominate Aida Mohammed.
I will second that.
Excellent. And hearing no other motions or objections, let's call the roll on that.
Hammock.
Yes.
Ellison.
Yes, and thank you.
McQueen.
Oh, this is.
Hey, Steve, if you can hear us and type in the chat, that's cool too, maybe. I don't know. Oh, there he is. Excellent.
And Turner.
Yes.
Okay, and we need to do the oaths of
Oath
office.
of office. All right.
Just going to say we needed to get that out of the way. How do you want to do this, Treasurer Henrik?
Well, I guess we'll do this virtually. So
Yeah.
Hold up your hand and repeat after me. Is this how you normally do it?
Yeah.
Okay. I, Steve Kahn,
I, Steve Kahn,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
and the Constitution of the State of Ohio, said Yellow Springs Exempted Village School District, Greene County, Ohio,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
in accordance with the laws now in effect,
and in accordance with the laws now in effect,
and hereafter to be enacted during my continuance in said office, and until my successor is chosen and qualified. Okay.
Thank you.
Congratulations. I'm trying to find a little, oh, here's the little clapping thing. There we go.
Okay, are we ready for Aida?
I got it.
Okay. I, Aida Mirhamik,
I, Aida Mohammed,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
and the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge my duties
and I will faithfully and impartially discharge my duties
as Board Vice President
as Board Vice President
of the said Yellow Springs Exempted Village School District,
of the said Yellow Springs Exempted Village School District,
Greene County, Ohio,
Greene County, Ohio,
to the best of my ability
to the best of my ability
and in accordance with the laws now in effect,
and in accordance to the laws now in effect,
and hereafter to be enacted during my continuance in said office, and until my successor is chosen and qualified.
I will. That was pretty good for not being able to read it.
Yes, it was.
Not bad at all. Well, thank you everyone for that. We'll now move on to the consent calendar administrative portion of this organizational meeting, which is a long list of things that have to get done every year at this time. I think what we'll do, Terry, if it's okay with you, is we'll take one motion on items 3.1 through 18. Is that correct? We can just double check that. Yeah, 3 to 318. We'll take that all together and then we can discuss individual items after we have the motion.
And also move.
Good, okay. So, how do we want to proceed with this?
Do we just sort of want to enumerate what people did previously and see if there are any?
Well, I think that's what I was going to suggest. If you know, there's a piece of me that thinks that unless there are any changes that we want to do, then we should just go ahead and enumerate what's there and move on to the next item.
And that's what we've provided for in the agenda.
Yep.
Who currently has that?
Let me pull that up.
Steve, it should be there. As Stephanie goes to each item, you should see it. If you can see the.
Oh, yeah, I got you. Okay. So 3.1, the appointments of personnel. We need a treasurer pro tem, a student achievement liaison, and a legislative liaison. We have, I think, Sylvia for the treasurer pro tem, Steve McQueen for the other two items. Are we good with that? Do we need to change anything there?
I'm fine with continuing with what I was doing before.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Steve, if you can hear us, give us a thumbs up. Actually, now we're just going to appoint him to everything. to 3.2. These are a whole set of board member appointments to committees. You can see items 1 that are required by our board policy, and then items 2 there, 3 items there, which are in a sense optional, that where we've had board members serve but are not required by our board policies, etc. So please take a look at those. Let me know if there are any concerns or changes.
Just a question. So, I mean, negotiations committee won't be needed for a while, correct? Or I guess two years? No. Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Steve just said he's hearing everything. He's just trying to get his microphone to work.
Okay, that's fine. And again, Steve, if you just want to use the chat function, if that's easier, faster, that's fine too. I'm ready to move on to the next item unless I hear anything else about our board member committee positions. Okay. We're going to continue with our second Thursdays at 7 in the Graham Conference Room as our time and place. I'm going to take this moment, I should have said this at the outset, just for people who may be watching us from home. We operated virtually in 2020 under stipulations provided by the Attorney General of the state of Ohio, which expired on December 31st. They have been extended to July 31st. So we continue, as all public bodies in Ohio are permitted to do, to operate virtually under those guidelines. So we're all desperate to be back in the John Graham Conference Room, but not at least yet quite. So item number 4 here are the affiliations, the memberships, organizations that help us do the work that we do every year. 5 of those. Board compensation, which I think has been unchanged since, I think, the Carter administration. Mileage rates, should any of us actually ever travel for school board business again? It seems so, I don't know, antiquated or hopeful. The appointment of our civil rights compliance officer for the Yellow Springs district. We have in the past had that as our student services director. Authorizations for the superintendent. Again, all very standard. We do this every year, so I'm assuming that we'll just trot through all of these. This is bonds for the board president, bonds for the treasurer. It allows us to, the superintendent to treasurer, to sign reports, which I suppose if we didn't authorize, one of us would have to do, so that seems like a terrible idea. Our attorneys, we're keeping, I think, the attorneys that we've had in the past year. We have board protocols that we commit to every year. Bylaws and policies. We designate the Yellow Springs News as our official newspaper, where we publicize our meetings and other business. A service fund. And then a set of authorizations for our treasurer, so that she can do the things that she needs to do. So again, a long list of items, 3.1 through 3.18. We do this every January. This is the lubrication in the gears to make sure that the district can continue to operate smoothly. Any questions, comments, concerns about any of those items? I trotted through them pretty quickly. Okay, well then why don't we go ahead and call the vote on that, please?
Ellison,
Yes.
McQueen,
Yes. Yes. Okay. Awesome. Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Khan,
Yes.
Mohammed,
Yes.
Okay, splendid. And a model of efficiency. We'll move to the last piece of our organizational meeting. That's item 4, the budget hearing and the adoption of our budget. That's item 4.1. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
So this is our tax budget for fiscal year 21-22 with the 5-year forecast. Tammy, do you need to say anything about this?
Yeah, Stephanie, if you could stop scrolling for a minute. Yeah, just a brief overview of this. This is our tax budget for fiscal year 2021. This is standard. Basically, what this tax budget does is it allows the county auditor to set the tax rates for us. So, Stephanie, if you could go back one page. I just want to point out that on our millage for the emergency and the permanent improvement, that has decreased because our valuation has gone up. And one thing you'll not see on here yet is the bond rate, because we do that separately, but that did decrease slightly this year.
Good.
And then if you could go to the next page, Steph. So then this lists all of our tax levies except the bond improvement fund, and then I should say not the bond improvement fund, but the bond retirement fund, and then the amount of money that it's going to raise. Next page, please. And then this has all of our levies. I shouldn't say all of our levies, but our current levies. And then it shows the general fund emergency levies that are due to expire in several years down the road. And then on the other pages, just have the receipts and the expenditures. We separate out the funds, and then the last part of this is the 5-year forecast that was adopted by the board in November and sent into the Ohio Department of Education. So basically, the tax budget follows the 5-year forecast. And that's all that I have on this.
Thank you. Any questions about that before Tammy files that with the auditor?
No, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. Okay, then let's call the roll on 4.1.
McQueen? Turner?
Yes.
Khan?
Yes.
Mohammed?
Yes.
Ellison?
Yes.
Well, that takes us to the end of the organizational portion of this meeting. Now, I guess I need a little help here on the logistics. Do we need a motion to adjourn from this in order to come back into the regular session, or can we just take a pause?
No, we need an adjournment.
Okay, fair enough. Can I have a motion to adjourn from our organizational meeting?
Second.
Go ahead and call that.
PJ?
Yes.
Khan?
Yes.
Mohammed?
Yes.
Ellison?
Yes.
McQueen?
Yes.
Okay, bravo, people. We did that with 9 minutes to spare. So I'm going to suggest we take a little break since people who might be watching the regular board meeting are going to expect us to start at 7. My clock says 6:52. Tammy and Terry, is that okay with you if we just if we take an extended bathroom break here and come back at 7 o'clock?
Yeah, Stephanie, I'm assuming we're using the same link.
Works for me. We are using the same link, so just come back in through that.
Yeah, okay.
Can we leave and come back, or can I just sort of leave this open and?
You can leave it open.
Okay.
And mute. Just mute. Turn off the camera.
Yeah, yeah, I was gonna do that because I'm probably gonna, finish eating dinner or something for 7 minutes. But yeah, thank you.
I will see everybody back in about 8 minutes.
to see you too.
All right, well, Jack, I love your bulldog thing, even though now I see your face, which is lovely as well. But I was looking at that, I'm like, that's really cool. Hi, Donna.
Hey, Happy New Year, everybody.
Yeah.
I keep following Happy New Year now with We Can Hope.
Yes, I like that.
So we have about a minute left before we'll ding the 7 o'clock bell. Do I see Stephanie anywhere? Oh, there she is. Oh, okay, got it. Stephanie, I'm assuming our stream is still good? Okay,
And the chat is on for community comments.
okay. Lovely.
Do we repeat the 1 minute thing when we come back into this meeting, or? No, okay,
That's
thank you.
just for Thomas to get set up.
Gotcha, okay.
All right, everybody. Well, welcome back. Welcome to those of you who are just joining us. Welcome back to everybody else. This is the regular board meeting for January 14th, 2021. I'll just say to anybody joining us right now, the board has already met for about a half an hour to do the annual organizational business that we do every January. So now we'll move into the regular business of our meeting. And we'll start by calling us all back to order, please, Tammy.
Ron.
Here.
Mahanick. Here. Ellison.
Present.
McQueen.
Here.
Turner.
Here.
Thank you for that. And let me just say that for anybody, again, watching us on the YouTube channel, we always welcome community comments, as you know, since we've been meeting remotely since, I think, April's meeting. Those comments have to come in the form of written remarks through the chat function that you have there. So if you want to submit any thoughts, questions, concerns, please do so, and we'll read those out loud at that point in the agenda. So just as I want everybody to be able to do that, should anybody want to make a comment. We'll go to item 1.3, the approval of the minutes of our December meeting. Motion?
So moved. Second.
Edits, comments, additions, subtractions? Call the vote.
Khan.
Yes.
Mahanick.
Yes,
Ellison.
Yes.
McQueen.
Yes.
Turner.
Yes.
Okay. And I'll acknowledge again the persons present. Thank you for being here with us here in January. We'll move on to this number 2 on our agenda, the communications and reports. 2.1, I don't believe we have any official board communications. Stephanie, I didn't see any. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Community comments, why don't, again, we wait a few minutes to see if anything comes in on the chat, Stephanie, and then you'll just flag me and we'll insert those. Yeah.
I just got one.
Okay.
Oh, well, it says the live stream is scratchy in the audio. So I will mute myself and call Thomas.
Okay. So we'll move then to item 2.3, schools in action. Terry, did you want to take us on this one? Terry?
I'm sorry, I have too many computers and can't find the right mouse. Schools in action, yeah, I think we can start with new staff members.
Yes.
So I am going to start with an introduction. I'm going to start and I'm going to let Michelle Person jump in. I'm going to introduce our new intervention specialist who will be working at Mills Lawn Elementary School, and that is Jared Smith. He served as a student teacher with us, both at the middle school and finished out at Mills Lawn, and actually had the opportunity to work with Linda Coulter before her retirement. So Jared is here. I'm going to let Michelle speak, and then I know Jared might like to say some things to the board.
Well, we are just very excited to have him. He's been a great addition. He comes to us with a very interesting background. He has some experience working with adults in the corrections field. Has always worked with children and has really been a proponent of education, even when he was doing his corrections work. He's fit right in. The kids have taken to him so fast. This has been his second full week of work. Led his first IEP meeting with grace and style, and we're happy to have him.
Jared, say hello to us.
Well, hello, everyone. I want to say that it is an absolute honor to be part of this community. Yellow Springs, I grew up in Fairborn, and I always never thought I'd end up back in the Dayton area, but being in Yellow Springs and having the opportunity to grow here and just the close-knit community that is Yellow Springs has been absolutely amazing, and I'm honored to be a part of this district. So I'm very happy to meet everyone officially, even though it's virtual, but thank you. I am absolutely honored to be part of this team and part of this district.
Well, welcome. You're quite right. If we were doing this properly and in person, this would be a lot more fun. But it's terrific to have you on board, jumping in the middle of the year like this. We very much appreciate that. And the reports so far are very exciting and terrific. And yeah, let's hope that by the end of the school year, we can shake hands for real and meet you properly in person. Welcome to the district.
Thank you.
We'll move on now to the administrative reports. Celia, I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's okay. I was raising my real hand instead of my virtual hand. I just wanted to, if possible, go ahead and just add briefly that I know Jared and his family, and I view him ending up here as one of the very few bright spots of the pandemic, because his student teaching stint in Yellow Springs is pretty much directly related to issues in all kinds of school districts and how they were handling and offering and not offering student teaching opportunities. And it's just nice to see how this turned out, because we did. I'm proud that our school district offered student teaching opportunities even during the pandemic situation, and I think we're the better for it, because one of the results of that is Jared teaches here now. So I just wanted to add that. Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you, Sylvia. And yes, good for us for continuing to give new teachers the opportunity to train and learn even under these bizarre circumstances. So, yes, so thank you. And now I'll move on to item 2.4, our administrative reports. And Donna, I think, why don't you go first for us this evening?
Okay. Well, as promised at the last board meeting, I have the combined annual special ed rating and profile. It's a little different this year. Typically, the rating comes out over the summer, and then I go over it at the beginning of the year, sometimes September, October, and then the profile, which is kind of the preliminary to that rating,
has been disrupted, so has this. So we didn't get the rating until now in December, and a lot of some of the achievement is based on testing that didn't happen. So they did a combined profile that came out at the same time as the rating. So what you're looking at is the official rating for 2020. You see the scale there in red, where you have 4 categories, the highest one being meets requirements, and that's what we got for our rating. Normally the required actions say no required actions because you met all requirements. However, the new preliminary profile came out at the same time, so they just said reference that. And the big thing to note is that the profile is going to be a combination of 2 years instead of 1 year's data because there was limited data last year. What I did, instead of trying to split those out separately, it would be a little overwhelming. I went ahead and on the right-hand side, you can see I listed out the annual rating where we get the points. And then on the profile, I just mentioned it under all the areas. There were some changes in the way it was organized from one year to the other year, which were planned before the pandemic. So that added to it being a little bit confusing. So I decided, well, let me just go through all of these, and at the bottom, I could just mention where the profile ended up. In the first one, if you go up a little bit, Stephanie, there's a set in the pink here, or red, there's a set of results indicators, and in the green, there's a set of compliance indicators that go into these measures. First 2 are math and reading, and this is for students with disabilities. So on those, we got 3 out of 4 points for math and 4 out of 4 points for reading. This is based on state testing results and looking at kids with disabilities and how they rate it. They make a target, and if we hit that target, then we get full points. And then we would also be meeting the profile result. So we didn't have testing last year, and the numbers are a little off. Math-wise, we missed the percentage target by 2 percentage points. So still something to watch. I know since we didn't have the results from last year, they looked at the 18-19 data, which I know we had some issues in math during that report card for the district. So this may be part of that or part of something else. And so we'll have to kind of examine that a little bit to make sure that this isn't causing a problem, this isn't indicative of an issue that's starting that we need to nip in the bud, or if this is something hand in hand with a district issue that we're already working on. So that's why it has an asterisk by it, just to mention that that's just an area to watch. Reading, we exceeded the target for the rating by a little over 11 percentage points. So for the profile, we met that target. So that was good. Third grade reading guarantee, we're too small to get a report for the numbers that they need that they want to count, so we didn't get a report in that area. It's not factored into our rating. Alternate assessment, this is always going to be an issue everywhere. The United States Department of Education would like us to have 1% or less of our tested population take the alternate assessment. A lot of states have problems with that. Ohio has a problem with it. Accordingly, we have a problem with it. I don't think it's necessarily a problem. It's just that we happen to have 6 kids out of 445 that were tested for reading who, because of their disability, required an alternate assessment. Again, the same 6 kids for math out of 434. Well, that gave us 1.35% instead of 1% or less. So we don't need that. I don't know that I can help out on this one because if a disability team decides that a student needs to take the alternate assessment based on their disability, we're not going to withhold that for them for this number. But, I think a lot of districts are in that boat. So we turn in some assurances, just showing that we share that information and that we, each IEP, we go through a sheet considering that to make sure we've considered all the options and that the team is truly picking someone who requires the alternate assessment. Federal graduation rate. This was one that recently changed in that instead of just reporting who with a disability graduated or not, it's looking at graduating with the same standards as those without disabilities. So, based on that, I just gave you the past 2 years. I think this will fluctuate again with the needs. Some kids are able to graduate with the same standards, and some kids based on their disability are not. So this was not included in the profile because it was redone, but it was, and it was not calculated in the rating yet because the target hadn't been set. So down in the next section, which is more the compliance indicators, everybody was in Ohio was a little bit worried about this disproportionality section because they redid it. And if you notice the target, we got the 4 out of 4 points. The target was changed from having 3.5, a ratio of 3.5 or less. It was lowered to 2.5, so stricter target, and that is looking at, and then the other thing that happened is they also redid the section. So you have a rating based on one way of calculating, and then you had the profile where they redid this section, and so there was no report in those sections. So that's kind of, that's something that's a little bit harder for me to report on because of all the changes. But regardless, we got all our points, and profile-wise, we met the target, even at the stricter target. So we'll hear more about that when it's clearer information and not so much of a transition. But generally, that's, are we over-identifying kids in different subcategories, like by race, for special ed? Are we discipline-wise over getting out discipline such as suspension or out of school expulsion by subgroup, again by race, probably or other subgroups more so than kids that are not in that subgroup, i.e. white or or the general population. So that's kind of what disproportionality is about. It looks like we don't have big issues in that area. The other ones are pretty strictly compliance timelines. We have a timeline to finish an initial evaluation. Target is you have to be perfect and do it 100% of the time, and we did. Early education, special education transition from preschool to school age. There's some timelines, by the 3rd birthday, we again have to be perfect and get it 100%. We do. Secondary transition, every child on an IEP at a certain age and above needs to have a transition plan in place 100%, and we do that. And then the last 2 are just about compliance, no late or uncompliant or uncorrected issues that are turned in, and audit findings if we're audited that year, or if we get those in time for this, and those were both fine. We got all of our points for compliance, and audit wasn't calculated, so we either didn't get a review that came out before the 31st. So overall, we did pretty good. I think we just want to watch our graduation a little bit, and we want to investigate our math.
Thanks for that, Donna, and thank you for doing all of the extra juggling that is required in a year or now 2 academic years that are so unusual to keep up with all of these requirements and whatnot. Are there any questions about that report from Donna?
I don't have a question. I just wanted to comment that I appreciate Donna's explanation about some of the measures that really show the impact of being in a smaller district when there are percentage requirements, and when one student in our district represents a much higher percentage of the whole than of one student in a smaller district, and that the focus is still on student need and trying not, rather than just aiming for a percentage. So thank you.
Great. Thank you again, Donna. So I'd like to call now on Michelle just to hear what's going on at Mills Lawn.
All right. So we have, it's funny, we are still in the middle of, obviously, our pandemic, but I wanted to take this opportunity to kind of highlight some of the creative things that we're doing even in the midst of the pandemic. So one of the things that people sometimes don't give our specialist classes enough credit for their, for how creative they have had to be to try to teach gym and music and band and art virtually. And K through 2, our K through 2 have been learning how, as athletes, we can show mastery of different motor skills by making obstacle courses at home. Each week of our project, we have focused on a new group of skills: running, hopping, galloping, skipping, and even rolling. Students use a seesaw to film themselves. That's one of the seesaws, one of the platforms that our kids use to log in and interact. Demonstrating the skill and at the end of their project by making an obstacle course using as many skills as they can. It was a great project, and it was just awesome. Steph, I don't know if you can or not, but there's that link there. And I know I had a link celebration earlier. I don't know if this link is going to be a celebration, because I don't know if that extra step, if it were, another link celebration 2 in 1 day. Let's see. So this is one of our students, and this is their obstacle course just that they made at home and sent to Miss Hawker.
And starting at the sweater on the floor. Over the socks. Jump over the top, socks. Skip over here. And this is the part where I do an egg roll. Not the kind that you eat. I'll walk around the pillow. Side slide down the side of that. And I'll take out the one of these and the shoes, the sneakers, and then take a bowl of water around the kitchen. And throw them in. And they're done. Yay!
I love that it's not the kind that you eat, not the egg roll that you eat, right?
So I just, I know we know that everybody's working really hard, and that the kid, but we are trying so hard to make sure that what they're doing at home is relevant, that they're really getting something out of it, and that we're at least giving them opportunities to learn and master the skills that they would have if they were in the building. So I wanted to share that because I thought that was super cute.
It was a great way of not having to put away your socks. You can keep them on the floor, and turn them into an obstacle course. That was brilliant.
It's all about thinking outside the box. It's all about thinking outside the box. One of our other projects that we're working on is the big map out project still, and so I'm going to probably be sharing updates for this one throughout the year because it goes through different phases. And I mentioned this in my last board report. This is the project that we're doing in conjunction with Agraria, and basically the kids are working on a year-long project where they are exploring their space. They are making discoveries, and they're going to create a map of their own area. And over time, they're going to come our kids are able to go out and explore. Some of them come in, and this is part of our SEL component that we're offering. Some of the SEL component that we're offering, and the students come out and they go on nature hikes. So they get to come in, they get some human interaction, they get to work on their project. It's a really cool way to be able to meet their needs while we're still in this remote learning environment. So I thought you guys would get a kick out of seeing. They saw a deer. One of the pictures that's not showing up there, that was the coolest picture because they went down to the glen and they saw a deer. So that's going to be on somebody's map.
Nice. Very nice.
Yeah. And then Jared was on my other item, but we already welcomed him.
Wonderful. Questions? Any additions? I think that's great to have kids outside, even in the cold weather. We all need to get outside under these conditions, so that's marvelous. Thank you so much, Michelle.
No problem.
Jack, top that.
All right, thank you, Steve. So as Michelle said, one of our biggest areas of focus right now is connecting with kids. So we realize how difficult this is, and I want to thank our students and parents and teachers for all the hard work they've done throughout the first semester. But in spite of all of that, the reality is we're very isolated right now. So we're trying to hold on to as much as we can, even if we have to do things differently. So holding on to athletics, and then a big piece was theater. So this year we embarked on a new journey. We're trying to produce theater for film, and the original timeline had us releasing this on Friday the 13th of November, and unfortunately, due to quarantine, due to weather conditions, due to a variety of factors, we didn't release it until winter break. So with that said, we learned a ton, and it's a different type of theater, it's a different type of performance. And then, Lori and Eli spent hours upon hours upon hours editing to get to a 2-hour film. So I want to congratulate our students for their production of Dracula, and then Kean Barker wrote and directed Zool, which is a play on Zoom, and it's like an online meeting platform that forces you to stay online and forces your camera online. So it's a really neat little piece, very, very well done by he and his peers. And then there are more tales of terror that are going to be released here soon. So congratulations to all the students and to Lori and Eli for that work and the learning that went into it. We are currently working on the plan for the spring. I intentionally told Lori we need to see how the fall goes before we plan something significant for the spring. So I'm looking forward to reporting that. I think we've got a lot of traction with something that'll be pretty exciting, but I want to make sure we get the details worked out before I present on that. So that'll be coming in February. The second piece is the travel update. So last year, you guys had approved for our students to take a trip with EF Tours to Rome and Athens, and then ultimately that was scheduled for spring break. We went out of school just before spring break, kind of at the original height of the pandemic, and that had to be rescheduled. We rescheduled the spring break, and just last week, EF contacted us and said they're canceling all trips departing in March. So for us, waiting for them to cancel it actually allowed our families to recoup an extra $200 per student. So we're at a spot where we are not going to reschedule that trip. So if we were to reschedule it, I think around half of the students who had initially signed up would not be able to go. It would be a significantly different group, and it I think creates more frustration for families. So the idea that we're going to go ahead and cancel it, our families will be able to get refunds, and then once this pandemic is in the rearview mirror, we'll be able to consider what type of travel is appropriate at that time. So, and then the last thing I want to report on is just some events that we did for our seniors in our community. The first one being our Senior Citizens Day. This is an event that's, I think, treasured by the senior citizens in our community as well as our school community. It's something our students always look forward to, our staff looks forward to, and without a doubt, the seniors always enjoy coming in. We knew it wasn't safe this year to do that. So instead of trying to host them, we looked at how we could do it differently. We partnered with the Community Foundation and the nutrition group. And when the seniors come in, I think they enjoy getting to meet with their peers and they enjoy the entertainment. But I really think they like the warm meal and the gift the best. So those are the two things that we made sure we held on to. So on December 16th, we had a team of, I think, 6 of us delivered meals and gifts to 113 of our seniors in the community. The Community Foundation provided gift cards that can be spent back in the community, and then the nutrition group prepared the traditional meal for the seniors. So it was really great to get out and to be able to still recognize them. I think they were all very excited, very appreciative, and something that hopefully bridges that gap until we can get back to meeting in person, hopefully next year. So I also want to thank Christy Nielsen. She's the organizer. She's organized that the last couple of years, and she always does a wonderful job with it. And this year, she really facilitated that pivot nicely to the deliveries. And then the last piece is just taking care of our class of 2021 seniors. So, last spring, we really attended to our seniors and trying to make sure the end of their senior year was special because they had to give up so much. And here again, our seniors are again giving up a lot. So just before we went out on winter break, our staff, we had a couple teachers take an hour in the afternoon and we divvied up our senior class. And we drove out to their homes and delivered gift cards, again, provided by the Community Foundation. And then we provided a cupcake to each senior. So just something to say, hey, we're thinking about you, we care about you, you're special to us, and we want to make sure your senior year stays special.
Thank you for that, Jack. That's really terrific. The cupcakes, yeah, that means a great deal. So thank you, and for everybody for making that possible. Are there any other comments or questions for our administrators? I'm looking around at my screen. Well, thank you to all 3 of you for those reports. Much appreciated. And a reminder that, even under these circumstances, we are moving the freight and making sure that we put our kids first, even though these are extraordinary times. We'll move on to number 3 in our agenda, and that's the Treasurer's Reports and Recommendations. 3.1, our Treasurer's Financial Report.
This report is as of December 31st of 2020. And I just want to talk about this page a little bit. This shows projected cash flow. We have 6 months of actual, and then we have 6 months of projections. And using that information, it is projected that we would end the fiscal year for the general fund with $4.1 million in the bank. So if you go to the next page, Steph. And this is just comparing the actual to the budget for just the month of December. And then the next page is comparing the 6 months budget to 6 months worth of actual. And you can tell on this page, as you can see, and just hold it there, Steph, that our revenue is down as compared to the budgeted, even after we decreased the budgeted item for income tax. But on the other hand, our expenditures are also below budget. So when you look at both of those together, as far as cash balance goes, we're $85,000 ahead of what I projected. So, that is a good thing. I'd like to see the expenditures, obviously, I'd like to see the expenditures more under budget, and I'd like to see that revenue come up. Because, when we look at our actuals and our budgets, keep in mind that this budget is based on the 5-year forecast, which shows us cutting into our carryover for this fiscal year by about $900,000. And I think had at this point in time.
Right.
Next page shows the 6 months of actuals as compared to the entire year of the budget. And then on the following pages, we have the graphs, shows the information, a little bit different form, percentage of income tax and real estate that we received as compared to state foundation. And then the expenditures, obviously we spend most of our money on salaries and fringe benefits because we're a service organization. And then on the next pages, it shows how we're tracking to budget in a graph form rather than the numbers in an income statement or budget statement. And then this page shows the reconciliation. So overall, we have $5.5 million in the bank, and that's all funds. And then the next pages show the fund balances for each category. And that's all that I have.
Thank you, Tammy. Our revenue situation, I think it comes as no surprise to anybody. This is pretty volatile because of the COVID economic crisis that continues to affect us and is sort of seesawing and not quite clear where this is all headed. Do you have any other thoughts about revenue, Tammy? Are you seeing this in other districts? Have you been? I know the village income tax revenue has taken a hit. I don't know if they're seeing that rebound at all recently or not.
I haven't heard anything from the village, but with other school districts, their income tax is down also.
Yeah. Right. I guess we will all cross our collective fingers and hope that once the pandemic subsides and the economy then picks up again, that our revenue situation will start to look a little better and we'll breathe a little easier on that. But it's awfully hard to do planning under these kinds of circumstances. Other comments for Tammy on the financial report? Always very clear. I love those pie charts. Okay. Let's go to the adoption of the financial portion of our consent calendar. That's items 4.1 through 4.3. Do I have a motion, please?
So moved.
I'll second.
Great. Tammy, walk us through some of this, please.
Okay. The first items we have are the appropriation increases, and these are just some small increases for our school fees. For receiving grants, like the Big Map Out project, and then there's another geometry project going on. That's under other local. Student activity is a slight increase. And then the CRF, that is basically our pandemic money that is coming through. And this is specifically for the broadband grant. And what we're using our broadband grant for is for hotspots for our students. And then also in collaboration with Movecca, which is our A site where we receive our computer services from, in conjunction with them and then in conjunction with the village, we did a project to bring Wi-Fi throughout the village. Some school districts did not spend their money. So we received an additional $13,000 in addition to what we had previously gotten, which was around $20,000. So we were able to do some more Wi-Fi in the village.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and then we have a certificate of availability for Kettering Health Network, and this is just one of those things that fell through the crack. But basically, what is happening is, and if you could go down to the purchase order step, we normally would receive these trainer services, the athletic training services, for free. And now the hospitals are charging. So Kettering Health Network is charging for this to the tune of approximately $24,000 this year. So we're going to need to take this out of the general fund. We don't have enough money in the athletic fund to support a cost like this. So just wanted to highlight that for everyone. And then we also have budget and purpose statements for the student review board, speech and debate, Into the Wild, and the class of 22.
Yeah, and I would just add that I'm sure that Kettering bill, which is something, from 0 to 24,000 is quite a shock, but that itself is pandemic related because, of course, health systems have been thrown for a loop financially across this pandemic as well. So, yeah, the ripples here affect all parts of the operation. Any other questions on items 4.1 through 4.3? Okay, then call the vote, please.
Verhemick.
Yes.
Ellison.
Yes.
McQueen.
Yes.
Turner.
Yes.
Khan.
Yes. Okay, thank you for that, Tammy. We'll move now to the superintendent's update 5.1 on the agenda.
Thank you. I want to start with something that is not on my update, but is probably one of the most important things I'm going to say tonight, and that is a big thank you because January is Board Recognition Month. And I know we joke about board compensation and all of that, but I want to say it often is a thankless job, but it's such a critical job to help guide education for children in the district. So Governor DeWine has declared, as he does, January Board Recognition Month. And I won't necessarily read to you the proclamation, although I can because I have it up. But I want to say that certainly I appreciate all of your work, and I'm going to speak on behalf of the staff. It's a difficult job, made much more difficult during this time, and we've had a lot of meetings, a lot of special meetings, some additional meetings, and that's a pull on your time from your family, but you do it and you do it gladly, and I've never heard you in my time here say, no, we can't do that, we can't have this meeting. You're whatever it takes, whatever you need to get the job done, we support you. And so I thank you. If you remember in years past, we sometimes have things from students to present to you, and students often present to you, but alas, that is not the case tonight in this virtual environment. But do not despair. I do have this certificate for all of you that I will have for you in the board office that is really from OSBA and us. It's public education, as we've seen now, is more critical than ever, and so you are the leaders in that. And so thank you very much, all of you. So,
well, Gary, that's very sweet and generous of you. I working with Tammy over this incredibly trying last 12 months. I also want to take the opportunity to just mention the folks that often don't get seen, but who also keep the district running. Tammy's assistant, Kara, Stephanie, we see at our board meeting, Sharon, and other members of the crew who also put in more hours than they should and work harder than they ought to keep everything going. So thank you all to everybody for all of your hard work and your dedication.
yeah, well, thank you. I cannot wait until I do not start my update with a COVID report. I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, but I pushed out a video examination would occur on Thursdays because that's the magic day in Ohio. Our numbers are posted. They're not great. We are still remote learning. It's honestly my guess that we're going to be there at least for a few weeks. You know, I am not in the healthcare industry. I have no expertise in any of this. I've been asked to do things that I do not feel comfortable with, as have all other superintendents. But you know, you do what you have to do. But the numbers are not great, so we're still remote. A little bit of a complication around this is this notion of vaccine. Now, it shouldn't be a complication because I think we've all been awaiting this day. But education personnel are in class 1B, priority group 1B. So that starts on February 1st. So the Greene County superintendents actually met with the health department and we had a plan. However, Governor DeWine changed the game a little bit when he really forced the issue for schools, and you had to certify that you're going to come back in person or hybrid by March 1st. I did sign that form. It does not require board approval, but I think you know I've talked to you all about this. I cannot let an opportunity for a vaccine to get the staff vaccinated to pass by. However, having said that, if you watch the governor today, just in general, there's just not enough. So I don't know. Stay tuned. It changes regularly. I think at this point we're better off than we were months ago because we can see hope on the horizon. It just feels some days like that horizon is moving back a little bit. But that's kind of where we are, and I'll continue to update staff and students and parents every Thursday afternoon. It was relatively quick this afternoon, probably by 2:20 it was up on the website. So let me know if you have additional questions about that. I want to talk about our master facilities planning process that we are beginning. So the way this will work is between now and April, we'll have a series of meetings, and we have a series of committees or a few committees to do this work. And basically what we are going to do is look at our educational needs and decide based upon those needs, how are our facilities supporting those needs, and then what do we need that we don't have. We all know that our facilities are old. We've been down this path before. I will say it's going on 3 years, and in some cases for some of this work, almost 4. But for some folks, it feels like, oh, we've done this. And I think that we've done some of it. I think it's time for a restart. You know, ODE's been using that term, and I'm going to use that. How do we really start this process where we use what teachers need and what kids need at the center? We are a project-based learning district. We are keeping that. I think the staff will be the first to say that we need to really kind of refocus and do better with that, but they are committed. I will be working with the staff in the next few weeks about some goals that have come out of the old strategic plan that I feel like we really haven't actualized, and they're good goals, and we're going to keep them, and they're around academic performance with associated student competencies. They're around equity in all areas of the organization. They're around community engagement, and they're around a fourth one that honestly just flew out of my head. At our February meeting, I will be presenting these to the board because they're draft, work in progress, but I think we have a really good foundation, and that's important because that's central to the facilities planning process. we started to send out our invitations, and for folks to be on those committees, and we were having some success. We will have community forums, 3, and I have those dates, and I'll be publicizing those. But again, as you see in my written update, we've done a number of things already. You know, we've had multiple assessments, and so what I'll say about those facilities assessments is that the buildings don't get better with time; they get worse. Another big difference between the last planning process and now is that you know, I believe it's our duty to work with the OFCC to participate in the ELP program because our reimbursement percentage is at 26%. And in the past, it was at 17. You know, that's down the road a little bit. Right now, we just need to decide what type of facilities do we need. What type of facilities do we need now, and what type of facilities do we need in the future? So that work is starting. You have been invited. I will push out the dates for the larger community forums because broad input is what we need. And again, I can't emphasize enough. What's at the center of this is what our students and our teachers need. The next thing I want to touch on is, if you remember, it seems like years ago, really wasn't, probably spring, late winter last year, we entered into a collaborative grant, could call it an education district grant, funded by the Community Foundation, but with the school district in Antioch and Agraria and the Yellow Springs Children's Community Center and the Development Corporation, to explore possibilities, collaborative possibilities between these entities. And some of the examples that we were exploring for collaboration are listed here. Potential land use for a K-12 facility, identification of regenerative agriculture, solar and alternative energy, and other sustainability possibilities. Identify the potential for renovation of shared spaces. Examine the possibility of repurposing currently unused or underutilized structures for pre-K-12 education. I think since we embarked on this, the landscape has changed in addition to COVID. So I don't know that we'll end up with the same type of collaboration as identified initially. But in my mind, this notion of shared space collaboration and curriculum collaboration, and I'm specifically thinking of the fine arts, I think there's still great promise in that, but that's ongoing, and I want to emphasize that is still and has always been a grant to explore opportunities. Okay, questions about any of that for me?
Barry, I wonder if you could go back to the facilities portion of your update, and could you just explain for everybody when we're in the next portion of the agenda, we're going to approve a contract with our pre-run architect, the firm of SHP. So what is a facilities master plan? What are they actually going to do, and what sort of a product will they produce for us under the terms of this contract?
So the facilities master plan will really guide where we go as a district with our facilities. So you start with educational visioning. So we have two teams that really work side by side. There's the educational visioning team that is really heavy with students and teachers. So they will go through a series of focus group meetings during the day, and then they will attend the larger visioning team meetings in the evening that will have our higher ed partners and parents and other community members involved. And so the purpose of that, I'm going to call it the EVT, the Educational Visioning Team, is to really get that input from students and teachers that says, look, here's what we need to do our work. Here's why this is working, and here's why this isn't working. So then that helps that team inform the other large team, which is the community advisory team. So the community advisory team listens to the input of the educational visioning team, and at the same time goes through, here's where people are going to say, I feel like I've done this before. They'll go through our facility assessments. They'll go through our enrollment projections that have been updated. They'll go through our new OFCC draft plans, which are based on our new enrollment projections. The community advisory team will also hear from Tammy about here are our financial options, right? So as we're working through really what do we need to provide the type of education Yellow Springs Schools has provided, is providing, and will provide in the future. What do we need? As that's happening, this other team is really working with what I would call the more technical piece. As this is going on, we have community forums, and so there's this iterative process, and then that all comes together really in a master facilities plan that says, this is it. This is what we will be taking to the voters, right? This is the plan we believe in. This is the plan that's been collaboratively designed. This is the plan that really fits with our financial situation or what we project that might be, etc. And so the pre-bond architect really is instrumental in walking us through that whole process. They will review all of the assessments. They will look at the enrollment projections. They lead the educational visioning. They do the kind of visual pieces around what the facilities could look like. Does that answer your question?
No, I think that's, thank you for that. I think that's very helpful for everybody to understand what this process is going to look like. And at the end of it, we will have settled on one of the several possibilities that are out there. We will stay with the two campuses that we have. We will consolidate into one campus. If the latter, we will figure out what site is best for that. That's what we're talking about here through this process. It gets us to that point.
Right. There will be no fuzziness at the end, because what happens is that the community advisory team presents to the board, here is our plan and our recommendation.
Yep, good. That's excellent. And we're thinking about that as a presentation by April or May?
It will be by April.
Yep.
Correct. Yep.
Okay, so this is a very quick schedule. I want to just, again, for those who are watching or might be reading about this in the next issue of the news, the dates for these community engagement processes are going to be out there. We urge everybody to participate, and if you can't participate, get a hold of somebody else to let your views be heard. We're not going to be able to do this in a big room, which is too bad. We're not going to be able to do this together. We won't be able to have the same kind of freewheeling discussions that you can have in person, but we're going to have plenty of opportunities for people to make their contributions and to make their voices heard. So please stay tuned for that.
Yes, SHP has a plan for virtual meetings and virtual engagement. And we will, so the dates for the community forums will be out next week. And we will actually have a website, it's almost up, called yellowspringsforward.com that really details this whole process. So
excellent. Okay. Thank you for clarifying that.
No problem. I do want to say one more thing, unless there's any other questions about facilities.
I don't really have a question. I just want to comment that, although we've been through this process that was a long time ago, we learned a lot through that process. We had a lot of people engaging and appreciated that, and hope that we continue to have participation and so forth. But something that we started out with last time and that we kept reiterating, but the message just didn't compute and wasn't appropriately received. I don't know what process in a different kind of way. We hope the process is different. I know there'll be some similarities, but I just want to say, yes, we've been through this. Yes, we're going to go through this again, and I hope we can do it with, as much openness and goodwill, because I know that we're doing this here for our kids and for our future kids and families. So I really just want to be clear, there is no plan.
Is there a plan?
There is no plan.
There is no plan.
Yeah. No, look, yes, that somehow got lost. I think some of the discourse that took place both in social media and in the news muddied those waters. There is no plan. There are a finite number of options, and I think everybody can figure that out. As I just said, we're either going to keep 2 campuses or we're going to have 1.
Yeah.
That's we're not going to have 3. So we're going to have if we have 1 campus, it's going to be we'll have to find a location for it. So there are a finite number of options, but the board is totally open to what the community thinks is the best one of those options.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. I just want to kind of make a comment as leader of this organization. I think we were happy to put 2020 to a close. I think all of us were. We're like, yay! However, 2021 has not started out well. I think last week's incident at the Capitol really was stark evidence of I'm going to say, the depths to which we've sunk as a nation, as well as just, blatant evidence that we are nowhere near becoming a more racially just country. I say this because as I watched everything unfold, I was thinking about our students. How are they dealing with this in addition to all of the other things that have happened in just 10 months? A global pandemic, maybe family deaths, maybe family job loss, food scarcity, racial protest, a contentious election, tremendously terrible rhetoric, violence-inducing rhetoric that has honestly come to pass as okay and acceptable from our leaders, and that I worry about them. They don't see their friends. They don't see their teachers. They're isolated. So I think what we do really needs to show to them that there is another way. They are watching us. They'll be watching next week, honestly, what happens on Wednesday. It's not lost on me that kind of sandwiched in between last week and Inauguration Day is Martin Luther King Jr. Day. So I'm going to say publicly that that's planned every year by the Yellow Springs Martin Luther King Day Planning Committee, and so there's a march occurring on Monday. I think the meetup time is 9:30 and the march starts at 9:45, and then there's a virtual program after. I'm going to be there. I encourage everyone, if you can be there, because the children are watching, and so what are we going to show them? I did ask Stephanie to try and put that link, the link about the event up on our website, and she's trying to do that. So I just want to say that, we have to show children a better way, and if any of this is evidence of anything, it's evidence that education is so critical. Education is so critical. And thanks for the reminder, Sylvia, wear a mask. Okay, and that is my update.
Be there, but yeah, be there, and thank you so much for putting that out, though, about the event in the middle of
administration portion of our consent calendar. That's items 6.1 through 6.5. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Terry, go ahead and highlight what we need to know.
Okay, so first reads. You might remember the open enrollment one was a first read last month. It's a first read again because we've changed it a bit. Again, at a future board meeting, we're going to present our new kind of open enrollment and enrollment procedure because Margaret Swanson and Thomas Young have been working to really make it much more efficient, and it's beautiful. So, but that's why that's back in there. And all of the others are tobacco policies. So we had to add the 24/7 phrase, and then for some reason we did not have a tobacco use policy for administrators. So we remedied that. But that's what all of the new reads are. The second reads are just as presented last month.
Yep.
6.3 is the approval of the pre-bond architect contract with SHP,
which we just discussed.
Yep.
Thank you.
6.4 is every year we really provide reports saying that we meet all of the nutrition standards as a school. This is from 1920, and somewhere in the transition of getting a new food service provider, we did not do this. So we are correcting that. We are doing that. We absolutely met the nutritional guidelines, but this is something you'll see from us annually, probably at the end of each year. And lastly, district honors, recognitions, gifts, etc. We've had a lot, so I want to thank that the district would like to thank donation of office furniture from Aida Rahimic, an office appliance from Greg Carter, and then donations to the Public Schools Fund through the YSCF. The Barker family, Michael Blevins and Peggy Nestor, Evelyn and Walter Sykes, and Richard Opides and Marty Lynch. Also through the YSCF, but to the Yellow Springs Athletic Fund through the pass-through. Thank you to Bruce Brett Miller, Jane Scott, Nancy Sundell Turner, Gwyneth and Robert Sundell, Eric Bruce Smith, and Michael Hughes. We had an anonymous donation of $750 to the High School Principals Fund. And then we had donations to the Outdoor Facilities Capital Campaign from Jennifer Boyer and Matt Cooney, Pam Conine, Angela Brittlinger and Steve Kahn, Robert and Jane Scott, Shirley Mullins, Adoption Link Inc., Sarah Wallace, Robert and Francis, Graham Jones, and Carla and Jonathan Horvath. I do want to give a shout out here to John Gudgel and Jeff Irick, because they have made it a mission to do tremendous fundraising for our outdoor facilities to benefit our student athletes, and they're nonstop. And so I thank them, and I thank all of our generous supporters. And that is it for me.
Splendid. Questions about any of that, folks? I'm scanning the screen, so if I'm not seeing you, flag me. But I don't see anybody, so let's go ahead and call the vote on those items.
Allison.
Yes.
McQueen.
Yes.
Turner.
Yes.
Cohen.
Yes.
Merhimic.
Yes.
Great, thank you very much. Item 7 is the personnel portion of our consent calendar. We have item 7.1 here. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay. Terry, anything we need to talk about here?
No, just one little note that these are standard. The certificated one is long because ODE changed the requirements for subs and made them much more stringent, so that the board has to approve these twice a year, and there are just a lot of restrictions. And I say that only to share with you that just this week we received an email from ODE saying they will now approve substitutes. Here are the guidelines for approving substitutes without bachelor's degrees. Why is that? It's because in this pandemic there are no subs.
Right.
I mean, we have this list to approve, but the long and the short of it is that everybody's scrambling. So other than that, this is these schedules are normal, and I ask for approval as presented.
Good, thank you. Questions? Call the roll, please.
McQueen,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Khan,
Yes.
Merhevik,
Yes.
Ellison.
Yes.
Wonderful, and thank you all very much for that. So we'll move now to board communications. Steve, you have a report from the Career Center.
There we go. I do. I guess I'll get the bad news out of the way. I'm sorry to announce we actually lost a member, our longest serving member. Her name was Mary France. And yeah, she actually passed last month. And so our meeting yesterday only had 6 out of the 7 there. Looking for a community member actually to do it. They're boarded, pretty packed, or busy. So no one from the board has volunteered, so they're looking for a community member at the moment. But that was, very sad news. We didn't have a meeting in December, so we were able to give a moment of silence yesterday for the meeting in her honor. She was excellent to work with. I learned a lot from her. Of course, the Career Center works a lot differently. We have to remain hands-on. So we've always been hybrid, and basically all the stuff that is hands-on are the only things kids go to school for. All of the academics are done online. So, and we're going to remain that way. And for the Career Center, it's very, DeWine's announcement is very helpful because the teachers will get vaccinated. So on their end, it's just they're already there. So it's really helpful that they'll be able to get that. However, the news that there isn't nearly enough vaccines out there is making those dates sound very implausible. It's 28 days in February. If everybody's going on the 1st, it already sounds like March 1st is pretty difficult to actually accomplish. But once again, we're already hybrid, so it's not a issue there. However, in preparation for that, because a lot of students will be coming back to also do the academics once they do March 1st, quote unquote, maybe March 1st. They found a program called the OWL camera, and this is my first time hearing it, but I guess it follows the voice of the teacher, so that when students are there or if they're online, the camera will move. They won't have to actually, it's something that they place and they use in place of their actual camera for their computer, and it moves according to their voice. So for teachers that are more mobile and like to move, they actually have a program that it follows the voice, and so that the professor can actually move around, talk to to the students, but also anyone virtual, the camera will follow. And so we just got that for all of our teachers here so that we can start using that. In fact, one of the board members is a professor, and they were like, "What's the name of that program?" And they ordered one before the meeting was over. So it seems very, very good. Other than that, it's still difficult for a hands-on school to not end up with the occasional case. We actually did really well last month. However, it's still sort of really difficult not to end up with a case here and there, and that's teachers and students and even administration at one point. So avoiding it, impossible to avoid if you don't do hybrid. So that's the main thing I've definitely learned with the Career Center. And so, yeah, staying remote is the easiest way not to get spread. And that concludes my Career Center report. Any questions?
Well, I will say I'm very sorry to hear about Mary. I knew she was not doing well. I also, Steve, learned a great deal from her because I think when I was on the board there, she was also the longest serving member.
Yes, still was.
Yeah, tremendously dedicated to her district and to the Career Center, and really just a sweet and lovely person. So I'm sad to hear that, though I know she was struggling over the last number of months.
Yeah.
Are there other board member announcements or items that we want to bring up at this point?
I guess I just want to verbalize since it's Board Appreciation Month, I just want to verbalize my appreciation of you all. I've been on the board going on 16 years now, and I have just felt like this is a tremendous board to work with, and congenial, helpful, thoughtful, and I just want to verbalize my appreciation for you all.
Well, thank you.
That's, I think, echoed by all of us. This is a really good group to work with, and thank you. And I also would say, since administration was thanking the board, I'd like to also thank the administration because that makes it, having good administration makes it worth the work of the board. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Other items? Well, then let's have a motion to adjourn, please.
That's so moved.
I will second.
Call the roll.
Turner,
Yes.
Todd,
Yes.
Bevick,
Yes.
Ellison,
Yes.
McQueen.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody. And yes, 2021 hasn't gotten off to the best start yet, but let's hope that it will get better soon. We've got a lot of work we're going to get into as winter turns into